The son abandoned his old mother in a strange city, condemning her to death, but something unimaginable happened in the first light of morning. Doña Jimena felt the gentle touch of the sun moving through the curtains of the old window of her room. It was a special day, one of those when she went to the market to prepare a delicious dinner for her beloved grandchildren, Moisés and Joel. They were the sons of Alonso, the only child of Doña Jimena. Alonso was going through difficult times. In a desperate attempt to find a cure for her, Alonso spent a lot of money and time, which led to a sea of debt. Doña Jimena, always loving and devoted, did everything she could to help her son. She lent him the savings she had collected over many years. Despite her 75 years of age, she did not shy away from responsibility and continued to work hard. Doña Jimena cleaned and ironed in the house of the Medinas, a wealthy upper-class couple in the city. Before we continue with the story, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to us. Also, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. We're asking this because that day when she came to work, Mr. We know how hard you've worked and we're aware of the difficulties you're facing. Please accept our offer. Doña Jimena, a wise woman who had been through a lot, replied, Boss, I don't want to retire yet. You are paying me more than I would receive in retirement. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, but for now, I prefer to stay as it is. The boss didn't press further and thanked her for her long years of dedicated service. One day, while cleaning the quiet halls of the mansion, Doña Jimena overheard a distant conversation. 2 weeks later, on a quiet afternoon at her home, Doña Jimena received a phone call. Hello, who's talking? She asked. Hello, Doña Jimena. It's me, Cecilia. Please come to my future mother-in-law's residence. I need to talk to you urgently. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Doña Jimena replied, concerned. Upon arriving at the mansion, she found Cecilia crying. Thank you for coming, Doña Jimena. I discovered the truth about my husband. Do you happen to know anything about him and the cleaning lady? Doña Jimena sighed. Cecilia, I have been working in this house for over 40 years. I have seen your husband grow up, finish school, and start working. But over the years, I have also noticed that he is not very faithful. I have never talked about it before because it's not my business. I'm just a cleaner. I shouldn't get involved in such things. Another colleague also said that Leon was harassing another employee and that she did not report it because she was afraid of losing her job. Doña Jimena paused, looking at Cecilia with empathy. I know this is hard to hear, Cecilia. I'm a woman who has been through a lot in life. Nothing surprises me anymore, but I can see how you might feel. If I were you, I would hire a private detective to find out the truth. Go home. Pretend you don't know anything. It was a strange request. Doña Jimena smiled slightly and left. Cecilia, now alone, reflected on her life. She was a successful woman who started from scratch. First, she opened a small women's clothing store, which over time transformed into several branches, becoming one of the richest women in the country. But lately, she has been suffering from persistent stomach pain. There they will almost certainly discover whether you actually have, said the doctor. At the sound of the word cancer, Cecilia trembled. Tears began to stream down her face and she stammered, But doctor, I'm too young to die. I'm only 27. The doctor, trying to calm her down, replied, Calm down, Senora Cecilia. Even I couldn't accurately diagnose your case. Please go to the hospital and get tests done. Even if it is a malignant tumor, medicine has advanced a lot, and there are treatments and techniques available that can help. Mom, my prayers have been answered. I found a job on a farm 2 days away. I need money for the trip. Can you lend it to me? I'll pay you back as soon as I get my first paycheck, he said with a smile. Doña Jimena, although happy with her son's achievement, was worried about his request. Alonso, son, I don't have this money now, but I will get it for you tomorrow after the POW. This content may violate our usage policies. Off to work. I congratulate you on this achievement, she replied fondly. Alonso thanked him and left, leaving his mother lost in thought. That night, as she was about to fall asleep, Doña Jimena felt a bad feeling. Restless, she got up to drink some water and calm her thoughts. To her surprise, she saw Alonso talking to an unknown woman in the kitchen. The woman replied coldly, I hope this old lady gets the money. Otherwise, besides leaving you, I'll tell everyone that you never looked for a job and that you killed your ex-wife to collect her life insurance. Doña Jimena, hidden, listened to everything with horror. She couldn't believe that her own son was a criminal and a fraud. Shaking, she returned to bed, tormented by the decision she had to make, or not to report her son to the police. After all, she was his mother. How could she accept such horror? "Doña Jimena, I need your help with my business," Cecilia said. "I know you can't read, but your experience is invaluable. I don't require a college degree, just your experience. When can you start?" Doña Jimena, still shaken by the events of the previous night, agreed to start at 7 o'clock the day after tomorrow. Cecilia promised to prepare everything she would need. After hanging up the phone, she recalled a conversation she overheard between Alonso and the mysterious woman. She knew she had to act, but motherly love tormented her. She wanted justice, but at the same time, he was her son. After hours of reflection, she decided to go to her employer's home to explain her situation. Upon arrival there, she was received by Mr. Adan, who said regretfully, "Good morning, Jimena." Surprised, Doña Jimena recalled, "But Mr. Adan, some time ago you offered me a pension, and I refused it thinking that your financial situation was not bad." Adan sighed, "You rejected your pension even though you worked for us for years. Now, as I said, we will pay you for your working time and you won't have to come here anymore." Doña Jimena, although sad, replied with gratitude, "I understand, Mr. Adan." At home, she talked to Alonso, telling him about the loss of her job and the need to postpone the promised loan. "Son, I don't feel well. I need to rest. I feel like something is blocking my throat. I thought I would work for Mr. Adan some more, but I was wrong." She kept the news of her new job with Cecilia to herself, no longer even trusting her own son. Alonso, unaware of his mother's thoughts, just asked, "Okay, Mom." That night, Doña Jimena felt the weight of the years more than ever. A sharp pain in her chest kept her in bed, motionless and alone. The morning light brought with it Cecilia's concern, and after receiving no answer to her numerous calls, she felt that something was wrong. Concerned, she knew that Doña Jimena was crucial in taking care of the business in her absence. Running to Doña Jimena's house, Cecilia found her in a serious condition. She quickly and carefully administered first aid and called an ambulance. This deeply concerned her because, in addition to her own battle with cancer, Doña Jimena was her only trusted person to look after the company since her husband Leon was out of the question. Tired, Cecilia returned home, only to be greeted by Leon's screams. He was furious because she had reduced the limit on the card they shared after discovering about her possible infidelity. Leon's harsh and unfair words hurt Cecilia deeply. He accused her of ingratitude, complaining that he had supported her during her illness by taking care of her. But Cecilia, despite her tears, knew she had to be strong, both for herself and for Doña Jimena, who was fighting for her life in the hospital. "I know it's hard for you and for me too, to be without money after taking care of you. Sometimes I go out with my friends and drink beer, which makes me come back late home. But you must know that you are the only person I truly love. Forgive me." Despite his words, Cecilia was not fooled. She knew he was lying. He pretended to be sad, but in reality, he was already planning something terrible. He wanted to go to the hospital and ask the doctors to disconnect his mother's life support. He then took the address of the hospital from Cecilia and went there. It's been a week since Doña Jimena was in a coma, and Alonso hasn't even shown any concern. He always thought only about himself. Upon arriving at the hospital and entering the room where Doña Jimena lay, Alonso saw his mother, unrecognizable, swollen in the hospital bed. "Mother, I know you heard my conversation with Ingrid that night in your house. That's why we, Ingrid and I, came up with a plan to get rid of you and take over everything that belongs to you. We put poison in your food, especially your coffee, because we know how much you like good coffee. Finally die, Mom, it's time." Little did he know that Doña Jimena was fighting for her life, hanging on every word. Tears streamed down her swollen face. Seeing his mother in such a condition, Alonso retreated and decided not to go ahead with his plan, believing that she would die in the coming days. Nearly 2 weeks had passed since Doña Jimena was presumed virtually dead, but now she was starting to respond. Then Alonso, fearing that his mother would recover, decided to go to the hospital to talk to a doctor. "Good morning, doctor. Are you the one taking care of my mother, Mrs. Jimena Sanchez?" "Nice to meet you too, doctor. I'm Alonso Sanchez. I came to talk about one of my mother's last wishes. She told me that if she ever finds herself in the condition she's in now, she wants me to authorize the disconnection of her life support. My mother was always full of life, and I'm sure if she could, she would choose to leave in peace." Leonidas looked at Alonso, surprised by his request. "Calm down, young man, we have protocols to follow." Alonso looked at her, feeling a mixture of fear and desperation. The doctor, still shocked by the strange request Alonso had made, decided to call Cecilia. "Hello, Cecilia. This is Leonidas Garcia. Doña Jimena's son, Alonso, was here and asked to disconnect his mother's life support, saying that she herself suggested it earlier. But I can't do it now, even though he has little brain activity. Other doctors need to assess the situation before we make any decisions." "This must be some cruel joke," Cecilia said, not believing what she was hearing. "I will keep Doña Jimena alive. Please come here in the evening. I will tell you everything that is happening." I'll come, doctor. "Any new information is very important to me," Cecilia replied, ending the conversation. She had barely finished the call when the phone rang again. "Señora Cecilia, please come to the hospital. Something amazing has happened. Please come quickly." The connection was suddenly disconnected. Doña Jimena, with great effort, whispered a few words. "It wasn't a natural heart attack. My son caused it. Help me." After that, she fell asleep again. Cecilia did not fully understand these words and decided to spend the rest of the day and night with Doña Jimena, taking care of her. The next day, to everyone's surprise, Doña Jimena opened her eyes, but this time without saying a word. It was a moment of joy and relief. He planned a surprise for her when she returns home. After weeks of recovery, Doña Jimena was still weak and had memory problems. Alonso, seeing this as an opportunity, decided to take action. "Mom, how about a walk around the city center next week?" he proposed, hiding his true intentions. "We'll take the bus, it'll be an adventure." Doña Jimena, somewhat forgetful, agreed with a smile. Meanwhile, Cecilia visited Doña Jimena every night, always worried. He packed his mother's medications in a bag and took her to the bus stop. "You'll love it, Mom," he said, laughing, hiding his true intentions. On the bus, Alonso implemented his cruel plan, leaving Doña Jimena in a remote place, alone and helpless. Additionally, he took her bank card and worse still sold her house, pocketing all the money for himself and the woman who helped him plan this terrible act. When Cecilia came to visit Doña Jimena the next night, the new owner answered the door. "I don't know any Jimena," he said. "This house is mine now." Realizing that Alonso could be responsible for everything, Cecilia immediately called the police, reporting the disappearance of Doña Jimena and a possible murder attempt that Alonso may have committed against his own mother. Shortly thereafter, Doña Jimena's test results confirmed poisoning, further strengthening suspicions about Alonso. It took doctors some time to discover this because a poison that was difficult to detect was used. That same night, Cecilia's heart was filled with pain and anxiety. She wanted to help in the search for Doña Jimena, but the cancer she was fighting with did not give her any rest and she had to be hospitalized. Cecilia arrived at the hospital with a mixture of hope and fear. He greeted Cecilia with a friendly smile, but his eyes betrayed the seriousness of the situation. "Cecilia, you've lost a lot of weight. Did you feel full after eating?" Cecilia shook her head. "No, doctor. But the oncologist said that every person reacts differently to cancer." "That's true, doctor." Cecilia sighed, feeling the weight of reality on her shoulders. "Abdominal pain and bleeding, doctor." "I see," he said, writing something down in his notebook. "We'll do some additional tests." Dr. Leonidas patiently explained all the details. "First, we will do a gastroscopy. This involves inserting a flexible tube with a camera through the throat into the stomach to see, and if necessary, take samples for a biopsy. In addition, we will do an abdominal ultrasound to check if the cancer has spread to other organs." Cecilia took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Finally, blood tests. These alone cannot diagnose stomach cancer, but they will provide important information about your overall health and possible cancer-related markers. In some cases, we may need a laparoscopic biopsy to get a clearer picture. At that moment, a silent hope burned in Cecilia's heart. While she rested and was given fluids, her husband Leon didn't even bother to visit her. He just called to say he was worried and that he loved her. However, Cecilia knew his lies and paid no attention to his empty words. The hours passed slowly, until finally, at 4 p.m, Dr. Leonidas showed up with the results. He entered the room with a euphoric smile and warmly embraced Cecilia. "I have 2 pieces of news," he began. The good news, the doctor said with relief in his voice, is that you don't have cancer, as I suspected. But the disturbing news is that someone was poisoning you. As with Doña Jimena, someone was trying to kill you with a very strong poison. Ironically, fate, your situation is similar to hers, but you were very lucky. At these words, Cecilia immediately thought of Leon. When Dr. Leonidas visited her again, Cecilia asked him to inform Leon that she would be hospitalized for a chemotherapy session. The doctor nodded, agreeing to her plan. "You are officially discharged," he said. "Do what you have to, but before you go, would you like to have dinner with me?" With a blush on her cheeks, Cecilia smiled shyly at Doctor. The doctor smiled back. "You're welcome, Cecilia. I was just doing my job, so it's settled. We'll meet at a restaurant in the city center." "As agreed, Doctor," Leonidas called Leon, informing him of the alleged complications in Cecilia's cancer treatment and the need for chemotherapy. The joy in Leon's voice on the phone was clear, but he had no idea what was really happening. The next day, after leaving the hospital, Cecilia checked into the hotel. During the preparations, Cecilia realized that she was falling in love with the doctor, and something inside her told her that the feeling was mutual. Dinner was magical. Throughout the night, Leonidas couldn't stop expressing his admiration. "You look wonderful tonight, Cecilia. Honestly, I wish you were the mother of my children." Cecilia, enchanted by the doctor's boldness and charm, could not resist and kissed him passionately, accepting his unexpected proposal. After dinner, they went to his house, where they spent a night full of hot passion, which was the beginning of great love. Leonidas supported her by taking her to the best lawyer in town. Together, they submitted the test results and evidence to the court, starting the divorce process and compensation claims against both fraudsters. As the case progressed, Cecilia and Dr. Leonidas also exposed Alonso's crimes, exposing how he had exploited the fortune of his mother, Doña Jimena. The days passed and Leon received a summons for trial, as did Alonso. However, Alonso remained hidden, leaving a trail of mystery behind him. Without financial resources, his parents were also held responsible, especially because they had knowledge of his illicit relationship with a female employee and for unfairly dismissing Doña Jimena. With Alonso still at large, the court issued an arrest warrant demanding information about his whereabouts. A week later, with the case still unsolved, Leonidas and Cecilia decided to leave the city and went to the doctor's country estate. Upon arriving there, they were welcomed by a cook and a cleaning lady. Exploring the house, Cecilia entered the kitchen and was surprised to see Doña Jimena. In a moment of stunning discovery, she learned that the elderly woman had lost her memory. It didn't take long to find Alonso in another state and bring him to court. In the courtroom, Alonso admitted to his struggle with schizophrenia, but this did little to lessen his punishment. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. In a moment of clarity and remorse, he confessed to all of his crimes before being transferred to a maximum security prison. 2 years after these turbulent events, the lives of Cecilia and Dr. Leonidas entered a new chapter of happiness. In a gesture of kindness and compassion, Cecilia and Leonidas also opened the doors of their home to Alonso's children. After everything they had been through, these children found a safe and loving home, full of warmth and new opportunities. Together, they all created a united family marked not only by adversity, but also by the strength of love, resilience, and forgiveness. If you like this story, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. These other stories will probably move you too. Have a good day. So what do you think about this story? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion really matters to me. And while you're at it, please subscribe to the channel. It would help me out a lot. But that's not all. I have something else to share with you, so click on the video that's popping up on your screen right now. I'll be waiting for you there.